All right, so welcome to another Q&A, and this is the Sleepy Hollow Q&A. We're rolling through the spooky season with these Q&As, and this one was voted on, actually, because I had a few good ideas. I might still do the other one. I probably am going to do the others on the poll, but this was the one that actually won by a huge margin. I was actually shocked, because I was like, well, the ones I had, I was like, well, I think I got an idea of who would win, and then Sleepy Hollow, this one, the Sleepy Hollow Q&A, just absolutely devastated the others. So y'all like your Headless Horseman. As always, if you'd like to be part of not just the polls, but also the Q&As that are here on YouTube, just hit the link in the description box below, head on over to my Patreon, hit the first tier, that'll allow you access to do so. But other than that, I once again would like to thank everyone who voted on this, who voted for this and asked questions. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's get started with the Q&A. Starting off with first set of questions, Tom Hibbert, who asks, do you find it surprising, unlike the previous adaptations of stories where they turn down the dark elements in the Disney version of Sleepy Hollow, they kept most of the dark elements in Ichabod wanting to marry Katrina Van Tassel to her family fortune, and ending where Ichabod's fate is left unknown? I don't like they did do that in the animated movie. Like, the animated short was specifically that. But yeah, in the book and also in most iterations, Ichabod Crane is not a good person. He is a con artist. He is basically this guy who wants to have a leisurely life he didn't even love Katrina. He was just more in love with her money. They made that a point in the Disney version as well as in the book. They don't really do that in a lot of the other versions of the story, but I'm kind of glad Disney kind of stuck with that for the most part in the original version. So yeah. I'm also glad Disney did not have the other stuff, the other language from Washington Irving's short story, which I'll have to talk about because I'm sure that's a question. But yeah. Second question. I don't know if you've seen the episode or not, but did you find the concept of Real Ghostbusters, the headless motorcyclist, the horseman kept on chasing the descendants of Ichabod Crane throughout the years, interesting? I like that episode. I think it's really cool. It's a really solid... I think it's a really solid episode. I think it really does have, I think it has a lot of fun to it, and, yeah, it's kind of like a Ghost Rider story, to be honest. I think it's a lot of fun, and I love the idea that Ichabod Crane's descendants are now the targets of the Headless Horseman, like the curse never stopped. I really like that. Anyway, third question. What do you think makes this tale of Sleepy Hollow so interesting? That's a good question. I personally think the reason why Sleepy Hollow works so well, and it's a story that is so well remembered, and why it's kind of like it's so interesting, is because it's one of America's few horror, like monster stories and ghost stories that is memorable. Like, in Europe we have like Frankenstein and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and, Dracula. In America, we don't really have that. We have like folk tales. We have like a lot of like folk tales and a lot of we have a lot of stories revolving around the whole thing of not so much horror, but more of like tall tales. So it's nice to have the Headless Horseman is probably the only one. I'm sure there are others out there that aren't really remembered, but it's more a folk tale than anything else. It's not an actual story. So it's one of the Headless Horseman, the story of Sleepy Hollow, is one of those original stories that really just kind of sticks around because it is. It's one of those few monster stories from America. At least that's how I view it. I know that's kind of an oddball thing, honestly, but like that's just how I view it. Is that America has the Headless Horseman, and that's really it. We don't have like all the others, like folk stories and whatnot, are like it's not actual written stories. And also, like, the setting. It is a very, like, the other thing I think that should be noted is that the book of Sleepy Hollow, the original story, is such a autumn vibe. It is such a fall vibe. It is such a Halloween vibe. So I really like that. It's one of those few stories where it's like it's just vibing on the. It's really just kind of like vibing on the whole thing of the holidays. Anyway, so thank you for those questions, Tom. Moving on now to Hunter Johnson, whose first question is, you may or may not know, but there was 3 adaptations of Sleepy Hollow in 1999. You had the Tim Burton film, but you also had Night of the Headless Horseman from Fox and another one from Hallmark. I knew about the Hallmark one. You can actually find it on YouTube. It's boring as hell. I'm not kidding. That thing is incredulously dull. But I do appreciate that, like, Hallmark back then, Hallmark was willing to do stuff that wasn't it wasn't this whole thing of like what was I gonna say? It's a Christmas miracle, or it's a Christmas movie, or it's a romance movie that you've seen 1,000 times with a low budget, and hey, there's an actor you may or may not know who's down on his luck. But I will say, I've not seen the Fox one. I have never heard of the Fox one. I might have to go look at Night of the Headless Horseman. That actually might, I don't know how good that'll be, but yes. And yes, of course, there is the Tim Burton one. I think that was kind of, shall we say, on purpose as to why that was put out there. It was like this whole thing of like, hey, Tim Burton's doing this big Sleepy Hollow movie. Sleepy Hollow's in public domain. We can do this. So that's what you call there your synergy. But yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, I have not seen the Fox one. Definitely saw the Hallmark one. You can too. It's on YouTube. But it's a slog. It is such a slog. Second question. As much as we love Disney's version of Sleepy Hollow, I have noticed that the Mr. Toad story gets overlooked and doesn't get a lot of love, which is a shame because both stories were released as the... I don't know if this really counts as a question for... It's supposed to be... Hunter, it's supposed to be pertaining to the whole thing of Sleepy Hollow. Not Mr. Toad. Not the Wind in the Willows. This isn't Sleepy Hollow and the Wind in the Willows. It's not that. Yeah. Doesn't really matter. The Mr. Toad part doesn't matter. I have watched the Mr. Toad part. It's okay. But we all, really, outside of the Disney ride, what has Mr. Toad really brought? And why do we always remember the Ichabod part, right? God. But yeah, that's my stance on it. Third question. Would Sleepy Hollow fit Gravity Falls and Owl House, given both shows are a lot of horror and supernatural elements? Honestly, yeah. I think, obviously, like I said, Sleepy Hollow and Sleepy Hollow, what was I going to say? Sleepy Hollow's in public domain. And, yeah, the story of Sleepy Hollow really does fit in the world of Gravity Falls. You could also, it also fits in Owl House. I would say Owl House because that's supposed to be more upstate. And we've seen Luz's hometown, and it really does feel like a very Sleepy Hollow vibe. In fact, I would not be shocked if Dana Terrence put a lot of inspiration from, that into her, into her vibe, into her feel of the town. Like I said, honestly, Sleepy Hollow could easily fit into Gravity Falls and or Owl House. It really does fit for either, if I'm being honest. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Hunter. Moving on now to Gordon Rajani, who asks, do you think Brom Bones was the Headless Horseman chasing Ichabod that night? Oh yeah, it was. The book hints at it heavily that it was Brom Bones trying to scare the ever-loving piss out of Ichabod Crane. And that's kind of the thing in the book, is that there's no real heroes. Brom is a jock asshole, Ichabod's a con artist, and Katrina's basically pulling the strings on both of them. They really illustrate that in the animated series too. But yeah, the only thing difference is that in the Disney version they keep it heavily. What was the word? What was it? What's the word? They keep it ambiguous about the ending for Ichabod. But yeah, in the book, in the original story, it is heavily mentioned it's supposed to be Brom who scared the crap out of him. Second question. What is your favorite adaptation of Sleepy Hollow? Well, really, there's only a few. There's really only two good. I mean, there's a lot of Sleepy Hollow stuff out there, but really it comes down to two things: the Disney short or the 1999 movie, the Tim Burton movie. Which of those two I really enjoy? Well, I am going to say that, as much as I like the Disney version, Sleepy Hollow, like the movie Sleepy Hollow, is solid. Is it a good movie? No, but it is like immaculate in the Halloween vibes, and I think it's Tim Burton's goriest movie, and it really does feel like half the time it feels more like a like it's not so much an homage to classic movie monsters like Burton tends to do. This one feels more like Tim Burton was trying to be more catching the vibes for a Hammer film. And what I mean by that is not only do you have like Christopher Lee and Michael Gough here, you have like the outlandishly red blood like in a Hammer film, and also the atmosphere and aesthetics and just even the architecture all feels like a unused Hammer film. So yeah, it kind of feels like a love letter to the Hammer films too on that as well. And this movie is shockingly gory. This movie is like shockingly violent. It's also fun. Is it good? Is it a good structured movie? No. Is it a fun movie you can pop in for the Halloween season? Abso-freaking-lutely. In fact, it was my first movie I watched for the Halloween season for my 31 Days of Halloween films. So yeah, that gives you kind of an indication here. Third question. Which monster from American folklore would you like the Headless Horseman to fight against? What monster would I like to have the Headless Horseman fight from American folklore? The Jersey Devil would be cool. Like, they're both in kind of close proximity, so I'd say that the Jersey Devil would be a fun one. Yeah, let's go with that. All right. Thank you for those questions, Gordon. Moving on now to Mount Vernon Kid. Chris, how you doing, brother? And first question. I live 15 miles from the real Sleepy Hollow. They go all out during the month of October. There's actually a guy dressed up like the Headless Horseman and rides downtown. It's crazy. I've been there and done it a few times during Halloween. It is crazy. Someday, one day, I got to bring you up there for October to do it. Would you be down? Dude, brother, do you even have to ask? Dude, like going to the real Sleepy Hollow during October, that is a bucket list thing. In fact, that's kind of what I want to do for Christmas. If I'm being not Christmas, but like my birthday, I would love to do that for my birthday. But I'm kind of worried like it'll be winter up there, and also like I don't know, like I go up there and it's just a blizzard and I don't get to do anything. But that is on my bucket list of like, and I know it's such a goth thing to say. It's such a basic bitch goth thing to say, if I'm being honest. But like, I want to see Sleepy Hollow. Same thing with like seeing Salem, Massachusetts. It's one of those you want to see it once. Same with like Point Pleasant, Virginia. I want to see them at least once in my life. It's one of those bucket list cities like New Orleans was. I would love to go to I would love to do a whole freaking road trip of that. Of going to like Point Pleasant, Salem, Sleepy Hollow. There's another place I would go on that whole road trip. I'm forgetting it, but like, yeah, kind of do like a monsters and like an October road trip. That would be great. But answer your question, bro. Absolutely, I'd love to do it. Second question. Were you shocked to see Christopher Walken play the Headless Horseman in Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow movie? It's funny. I was not expecting Christopher Walken to be the Headless Horseman. He puts his head on and he goes, a lot. But I just think he needs more cowbell, I'll stop. I'll stop. Yes, it most certainly was a surprise. Because the first time I watched it, I was like, is that Christopher Walken? Oh, it is. Neat. But it feels so unneeded because like Walken doesn't really do anything but rah. Like all he does is rah. He doesn't talk or anything. You literally could have put any actor into this role, and you could have had you really could have had the same kind of of take on it. Really, like you could have done the same thing over. Third question. The original short story of Sleepy Hollow is now 200 years old, and it was written by Washington Irving in 1820. Do you remember the first time reading the short story? Yeah, I think I was in middle school when I first read it. And then I remember during the pandemic years, I was just listening to the audiobook on YouTube. Like someone had done an audio reading on YouTube. And I gotta tell you, there's some words in there. Yeah, that movie is very of its time. I mean, not movie. The book is very of its time. I don't think I need to go into it, but yeah, you got to move there. Like you have to remember that that was of the times, and it kind of bothers me still thinking on that. But still, I think it's a good story, and I do remember reading it at a young age and coming back to it. It's also not long. I actually forget that this is a short story and not like this isn't a very long story to begin with. I'm very I tend to forget that. Anyway, thank you for those questions, Chris. Moving on now to Gluzman, who asks, do you think that the Headless Horseman in the story is a real ghoul or Brom Bones in disguise? What do you think happened to Ichabod Crane, or was he killed by the Horseman? Yeah, I answered this question, dude. I just answered this question not too long ago. Yeah, he got spooked and ran off, and Brom. Well, actually, they kind of leave it open if Brom killed the guy, but I think we all I think it's more like he got spooked and ran out of town. So yeah, I answered this question. No. Moving on. All right, moving on now to Bill McLaughlin, who asks, who would you want to direct an adaptation of Sleepy Hollow? Ooh, that's a good one. Who would I want to direct a new movie of Sleepy Hollow? I know Robert Eggers is probably like kind of like a really basic bitch answer, but he would really kill it. I said like Eggers would be great at a Phantom of the Opera movie, but I think he would really capture the story of Sleepy Hollow. I think he would really capture especially the atmosphere. I think he would also capture of the times and make it more like accurate of those times, where, you know, Burton's version is more of an exaggeration of that time period. You'd have like a historically accurate era of Sleepy Hollow's era, like late 1700s. So I think that'd be cool. Plus, you get Ralph Ineson because he's in everything, and also you'd probably also get you probably get Willem Dafoe. I forgot the name. It's probably Katrina Van Tassel's father. How could you not say that? And I think also like if we were to do like a casting of that, and I think he is going to be one of those actors that Eggers goes back to. I would definitely say Nicholas Hoult would be Ichabod Crane. Like absolutely 100% Nicholas Hoult would be Ichabod Crane. I don't know who he'd get for Brom. I don't know who he'd get for Katrina. Probably Lily Rose Depp, maybe, because she's definitely great. Or Anya Taylor-Joy. She's another one who he comes back to. So maybe one of those two. But yeah. But Robert Eggers. 100% Robert Eggers. Second question. Do you think the Headless Horseman could have made a good Universal monster? I still think that. I still think that the Headless Horseman could absolutely be awesome as a Universal monster, 100%. I thoroughly am of that belief that he could be the next Universal monster. I mean, it took forever for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde to join, and if they want a new Universal monster, Headless Horseman's right there. Again, it's one of those in public domain things, and I think it would be kind of cool to add him, because all the other monsters are from like Europe. It'd be nice to have like an American monster be part of it. So the Headless Horseman, I think, would be a great addition to the Universal monsters. 100%. There's no way that would be really great. Third question: how would you do a modern retelling of Sleepy Hollow? How would I do a modern retelling? How would I do a modern retelling of this story? I'd probably have it be a I'd probably have it be a story where Sleepy Hollow is kind of like the legend of Sleepy Hollow is kind of slipped into myth, and it's more of just a fun story, like it's just to attract tourists and whatnot. But in reality, what it really is there's this undercurrent of that the town of Sleepy Hollow was like, yeah, the horseman's real, and to keep his spirit alive, we usually like lead some people late at night to the horseman on Halloween night, and he takes their heads. So not only do we keep tourism alive, but also like it keeps him from coming after us every night. If I was to do like a legit modern retelling, maybe have it that Ichabod Crane is a new school teacher in Sleepy Hollow, and he's a heavy skeptic, and everyone here is like fully in on the whole headless horseman thing. Like that's always been like a tradition, but he's like, I don't really believe in this whole ghost and goblin shit, so I don't know why you're trying to like talk to me about it. But eventually he kind of gets deeper and deeper into these stories, and eventually he's like, is he going crazy, or is there a real horseman? Yeah, so that's kind of my idea. So thank you for those questions, Bill. Moving on now to David Deister, who asks, if Sleepy Hollow was made into a comic series, what would it be about and who would publish it? Well, for publishing, I would say Dark Horse. And anyone could do a Headless Horseman book, because it is, again, as I've said multiple times, the story is in public domain. But if I was to pick someone to actually, if I was to actually pick someone to do this as a comic series, I would probably say Dark Horse. I'd still put my money on Dark Horse. Yeah. As for writer, David Desmelchin, who is yes, I know he is an actor, but he is making time to be a comic writer. Like, he's done stuff. He did the DC Horror Creature Commandos. He also has recently done. He's also done a story for a horror anthology called Headless Horseman, and he's also done like some stuff for DC Horror, and is working at Image for Knights vs. Samurai, which I really want to read in trade when that comes out. Knights vs. Samurai sounds really cool. But yeah, I would that's my David Desmelchin. He clearly has a lot of love for gothic horror. So if he's not working on movies or whatnot, I would say give him like a miniseries or something. If I was to actually pick like a legit a comic writer to do a instead of like an actor, I would to do an actual comic. I'd probably say I would probably say someone along the lines of like James Tynion or Cullen Bunn. Yeah, those two. Tynion or Bunn. Those would be my picks. Anyway, second question. How would a Stranger Things Sleepy Hollow crossover look like? Well, I'm not the biggest Stranger Things guy anymore. I don't think anyone... Does anyone care about Stranger Things 5? Like, has anyone gave a shit about Stranger Things anymore? Like, honest to God question. Like, does anyone give a single iota of a single shit of Stranger Things anymore? Yeah. Anyway, getting back on topic, I would probably say, how I would do it is maybe have it that the Upside Down is leaking further into other parts of the world, of the country, and basically like have it that, this wouldn't involve the kids from Stranger Things. It would just be the Upside Down slowly like creeping into the universe, into the other parts of the world, and through the whole thing of the Upside Down coming through in Sleepy Hollow on Halloween night, it basically disturbs the rest of the horsemen, and you just have the Headless Horseman fighting Demogorgons. There you go. There's your story. Third question. What is the best adaptation of Sleepy Hollow? I said it before. Favorite version. That was the question before. Favorite version. What I think is the best version of the story is probably the Disney short, because it basically followed the book 90% of the time. And usually Disney doesn't do that a lot. Like, Disney never really did that in most cases. So I would probably say, like, my personal pick would be, my personal pick would probably be along the lines of the Disney version, because that one came really close. I'd also say, like, for fun, another really good adaptation is the Wishbone episode of Sleepy Hollow. That's a good one. Yeah, I just made y'all blast the past with that one. We talk about Wishbone. Anyway. Ugh. Thank you for those questions, David. Moving on now to Alistair Bondman, who asked, did you ever watch the Sleepy Hollow crime drama series from a few years back, and what did I think of it? I really liked it. I really thought it was cool. I thought it was a really solid show for the first 2 seasons. By season 3, it was very clear it had gone off the rails, and the character of Abby was getting shafted horrendously. Like, those first 2 seasons were solid, and also, like, the crossover with Bones was also pretty fun. I thought that was a pretty good one. But yeah, it really but the show really, like, the hype for that show really got killed real fast. So yeah, good start, crashed and burned, like most Fox shows. Second question. One of Ruby's claims to fame is reimagining fairy tales and legendary figures in both Hunters and Huntresses and Grimm. However, I don't believe they did any Hunters or Grimm based off the Headless Horseman or any of the characters from Sleepy Hollow. How would I do it? I'd probably have it that Ichabod Crane would be like a researcher of the Grimm. Like he basically wants to study the Grimm. And yeah, I'd also have it that, like, he's also a total coward, but he has a desire to, like, a need to study them. Like, he's like, I want to know what makes them tick. I want to know how they function. I need to know what makes them them. But also run like a coward and eat everyone's food when he hangs out with them. For the Headless Horseman, I don't know. I think the best thing would be kind of cool is if I think what I would like to do with the Headless Horseman is make it that ages ago he was a warrior who fought the Grimm. He was a huntsman, he was a very powerful huntsman, but he let his ego get the best of him. And he thought he was such a Billy badass that he could kill any Grimm. And then one day he came across Salem, and he's like, I can kill this bitch. And Salem was like, you can't kill this bitch, and decapitated him. But the thing is that what would happen is that Salem is like, you want to be, you're like, you're gonna live forever. She used her abilities to make him live forever, but she got rid of his head. Like, she just destroys the head, and his consciousness is still in his body. So now the Headless Horseman is not a villain, but more of a protector of those. Like, he's like a Ghost Rider type character. Whenever people are in danger of the Grimm, the Horseman would ride, and he would have a pumpkin head now, because he died in a pumpkin patch, or something like that. I don't know. That's kind of the loose idea I'm kind of rolling with at the moment. Third question. If you could have a crossover between Sleepy Hollow and some other popular fictional historical figure, like, for example, Sherlock Holmes, what character would you like to see? Sherlock Holmes would be a good one. I'm not going to lie. I think, Sherlock Holmes would be good. I also think it would be kind of fun to do one of maybe Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Might be a fun one. But I think Sherlock Holmes is a really solid one of, like, have Holmes investigate the legend of Sleepy Hollow and kind of prove it's not a ghost, but then realize, oh, it is a ghost. Yeah. So, All right, so that is all the questions. I want to thank everyone who sent in questions for this Q&A. And yeah, if you'd like to be part of the next Q&A, just hit the link in the description box below. Hit the link there. Hit the first tier. That'll allow you access to do so. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in Multiverse.